Thank you for being here. Thank you, Plug and Play and U of A for hosting. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jorge, co-founder and CEO of bops, the connected inventory intelligence platform for consumer goods suppliers. I spent the past 10 years as a supply chain consultant for Deloitte. I work with many operators trying to solve their inventory problems, going from production plants to warehouses. There, I saw firsthand why manufacturers and distributors are losing millions in stockouts and overstock. So let's take a closer look. Consumer goods suppliers are dealing with increased pressure and uncertainty. And as you know, there's ever-changing, rapid shift in consumer demand. There's high retailer expectations, talking about OTIF, talking about on-shelf availability. And number three, there's lower or high pressure into your margins because of what is happening externally, inflation and other external factors. $380 billion a year here in the US is wasted in working capital due to stockouts, overstock, and inventory waste. And this is attributed to bad inventory decisions, and in some cases, to complacent supplier collaboration. So why is this happening? It comes down to three main reasons, and I want to spend a little bit of time in these 3 points. There's an over-reliance on static forecasts. What does that mean? Well, no CPG is going to achieve 100% of forecast accuracy. I think I want to steal Matt's point. There's no AI algorithm that is going to get you into 100% forecast accuracy. But the point here is you should be recalibrating your forecast and your POS data, item store and item web store data daily. You already have access to that data, which leads me into the second point. Your consumer demand, you should be taking into consideration your consumer demand, which is coming from your item store data, not only from a demand perspective, but also cascading that consumer demand data and propagating that through inventory requirements on your retail trading partners' distribution centers and your own distribution centers. Now it takes me to the third point. Customer supply chain teams are bombarded with data today. You have access to Walmart, you have access to Kroger, but there are different portals, different level of aggregation. Usually when you find out about an issue in terms of inventory or stockout or overstock, it's already too late. So now, bear with me for a second. Imagine the power of your operations if your inventory was connected across your supply chain, starting with your retail, going all the way up to your distribution and your manufacturing. Well, that's why we started bops, the connected inventory intelligence platform, helping consumer goods suppliers avoid stockouts and overstock. See, in nature, bops is an inventory recommender. It sits on top of your ERP systems and your retail systems. So it's retail system agnostic, and it connects and transforms your inventory data and consumer demand data, POS data, into inventory recommendations, such as, Josh, create a replenishment order to avoid a stockout, or increase your safety stock at your retail DC. And the best of all is that we heard you. We're not making you learn another platform. bops inventory recommendations are embedded into the tools that you use in your daily day. Excel, Google Sheets, Power BI, Tableau, and the best of all is that we're bringing our recommendations into ChatGPT-3 where they can understand natural language processing. This is already happening. We're already working with one of Pepsi's largest bottlers. They brought bops because they were losing a ton of missed sales, and this was impacting their service levels at their retail distribution channel because they couldn't react quicker to the sudden spikes on their retail demand. So when they brought bops, we were able to connect on top of the retail systems, Walmart, Kroger, and a few others, to bring that consumer data, or what we call consumer demand, recalibrate that forecast and propagate it into inventory requirements, not only at your own distribution centers, but also to challenge what is the actual inventory levels that you have at your retail distribution centers, and in some cases, stores. With that, we were able to help kind of Pepsi bottler get the right inventory at the right time at the right place. That quickly translated into savings. We were able to increase 5% in revenues. We were able to reduce inventory costs between 10 and 12% and increase productivity by 30%. And this is just one use case. This is the power of connected inventory. Now more than ever, it's time to simplify inventory decisions. At bops, we're making this happen. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Next up, I'd like to welcome Seth from Throughput.
Still working? There we go. The only recommendation I have is larger fonts for those of us over 50 next time. Hi, everyone. Seth Page here. Throughput. Nice screens here. We use supply chain optimization, which is really, as you can see, it's really just, how do you move beyond visibility to actionability to actual results? And for those of you who care about the bottom line, which is most of us, right, that is how do you leverage the AI on top of all the data sets you already have in your existing platform to get better business results, financial results, operational results, and ultimately sustainable results as well. So we have a $96 trillion economy going on $100 trillion globally. 22 trillion plus is waste that's endemic in the supply chain. It's obliterated every single year. A lot of it doesn't need to happen. Those of us who've been doing supply chain for decades, we know that it's always been wasteful, inefficient, and opaque. It's just the way the industry is. It's just when things like COVID pop up that the rest of the world sees it too. So below kind of the surface, there's always a lot of chaos and spaghetti happening. 30% on average for most companies is their biggest form of waste is in their supply chain. That's what we aim for. If you're going to try to get better results, go after your biggest type of waste, and that's going to be supply chain. And if you look at inventory waste, it's the biggest obliterator of shareholder value, stakeholder interest, and of course, it's unsustainable. But we also look at it and say, if you look at the industry laggards versus the industry leaders, that's where you're going to get your biggest opportunity. For those who can lead here and actually go after that waste versus just cutting budgets and cutting heads, that's how you can get ahead, get the better shareholder value, get the better EPS, and ultimately share price. This is what you see pretty much every day, right? It's a spaghetti, a lot of point solutions. Everyone has this decades and decades of point solutions. They're good at what they do in that specific area, but systemically, they work against each other, right? Every company produces data. You can't just stick it in a cloud or in a data lake and think it's going to magically create knowledge. It doesn't. ChatGPT is not going to solve your problems. There's no one simple AI algo. So you've got to look at it and say, data bottlenecks lead to conditional API, KPIs, goals that conflict with each other, and that creates physical bottlenecks, right? We all know bottlenecks, theory of constraints, Eli Goldratt. That creates systemic inefficiencies. Those systemic inefficiencies lead to inferior business and operational decisions, and that leads to unsustainable business practices. So if you want to go after that, you can't rip and replace all this stuff. This is your day-to-day business, right? Got a lot invested in there, typically hundreds of millions for a large company. And so you've got to be able to sit on top of it, pull that data up, and then systemically solve everything and give recommendations. And this is how we do it, right? We unblock and optimize the end-to-end supply chain, right? With real-world, data-driven AI engine recommendation. I've been training the engine for 7.5 years now. Hundreds of use cases across all industries, all supply chains, everywhere from defense to food to ag to CPG to cement to concrete, you name it. It's, there is no magic algo. It's millions and millions of algorithms for every single SKU, every single location, every single endpoint, every single customer. So if you want to talk about AI sometime, we can talk in the corner. It's actually a lot more complicated than people think. And it's easy, right? It's how do you take the data you have, use some solution like ours, obviously, to empower the workforce you have to get those better business solutions, right? Increasing your output, increasing your inventory turns, optimizing your SKUs, your locations, your geos, right? Growing your profitability, your EPS, your shareholder value. And ultimately, if you're doing all that, you're also reducing your CO2 and your waste. One of the things we do is we immediately impact the areas that matter to you. So you may think you're making $192 million this quarter, but you actually have another 200 sitting on the table. So we go in and show you in your inventories, in your transportation, in your logistics, in your production, in your warehousing. This is how much money you're leaving on the table, and we help you stitch together the AI, all of the different treasure chests that are there, show you how much is in each one, but it's open to you and your people to actually unlock those treasure chests and decide what to do with them, right? We don't take away the decision from the humans. We just make the recommendations with the software. If you'd like to see the demo, come by too. Every single SKU, every single customer is where are you? Do you have too much? Do you have too little? Real-time information, looking at real-time demand, matching it to actual capacity, and then optimizing all the different layers between that to show you how do you get the right goods at the right time to the most profitable customers in the least costly way with the least amount of CO2. Right? Those are the type of things you can optimize for with AI. Otherwise, you need 1,000 data scientists crunching away data, and that's just not a good way to scale. There we go. We look in the SKUs, show you how much inventory you have, and of course, this is typical for those of you who are in seasonal, right? You build something up all year long and you sell it off at a discount at the end of the season. You see this a lot for Christmas, for Easter, for 4th of July. Bikinis. If you actually look at the red, yellow, green, that's what the AI is predicting the entire day. Every single day, it's recalculating every single SKU. So you go to a Walmart, you may have 250,000 to 500,000 SKUs. We work with the DoD, that's 13 million SKUs. So we can handle anything you've got because we're actually in the Ukraine war right now doing replenishment with AI for C-130s. You know, again, use cases, we've been doing this for 7.5 years across the board. Some of our people have been doing it since 1983 on mainframes for military logistics. So just so you know, this isn't easy stuff. This is the best part, plug and play. A lot of these different, this is our 12th cohort we were the first supply chain investment from plug and play. A lot of these great corporates actually came through plug and play. So it's been a fantastic partner. We're proud to be here. We were in Arizona 2 weeks ago with the team there launching the new group. And it just shows you how much impact you can actually make on the world. And again, here we've got a lot of work with the defense. That's actually the DoD is the biggest supply chain in the world. Last but not least, just kind of an overview, 2017, we are a minority-owned business. Half of the executive team is female. We've raised $7 million in safes. The first check-in was Fred and Richard Smith from Smith family from FedEx. The second check-in was a personal check from Sagmedia back in 2017. And technically 2 people left in Silicon Valley, but we're mostly Midwest and South in the Northeast now. We'll skip us, but we own Warzone Logistics to Tesla, 12 startups, 10 acquisitions, and actually one of the initial people in Walmart Online was actually there too, Ala, if any of you remember her from way back when. And again, very active. We have generals, we have supply chain logistics experts, we have people who've been doing military logistics with AI and ML since the 80s, 83 and 85, chairman of B of A. You know, we got 2 of the 3 partners from Eli Goldratt, Theory of Constraints. These people have all applied their AI, they've assigned their IP and their patents to us. So we've got a lot more horsepower here than a lot of other folks. They've been doing it for many, many more years. And last but not least, 7 million raised. We're raising 10 million right now in a Series A, and we're looking for more corporates. The product is out there, the go-to-market's proven, the channels are enabled. We're on SAP, we're on Microsoft, we're on Project 44 marketplaces and elsewhere. So we'd love to talk to you, and come by the booth, and I'd be happy to speak a little slower next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Seth. Okay, next up, I'm going to invite David up from Ventory.
Hello, everybody. And thanks to Plug and Play for hosting us graciously. It's been a fantastic partnership. Even though Harvey went to Cal, I still like him. Sorry, I had to get that in there. So about Ventory, I'm going to go over a couple, 3 minutes, give you a very high level of what we do and some of the factors we do to help out the supply chain world. Then we're going to bring in what they always talk about in vitro, in vivo. We're going to bring in a live customer from DHL to give you a little bit of a feel of what we do. So first off, what we do in terms of visibility and field control, I'm going to jump right to this slide. This is really, I think, the problem slide that everybody has dealt with over the last few years, and that is, in the last decade or so, the supply chain has been forced to move from the tier 1, tier 2 warehouses to get out to the field. We call it the amortization effect, or the Amazon effect, which says, if you can't get me a product in the next day or so, I'll go somewhere else to go get it. And while that challenge has happened, the person who's going to speak right after me is going to talk about this. There's been a lot of other changes, too, in terms of multiple labels, multiple barcodes, multiple things you have to do to be secure and compliant. If any of you have heard of the DSCSA, or the new Drug Security Supply Chain Act coming out at Thanksgiving, it means in the pharma world, every single package that's sold or bought by somebody has to be tracked at the package level. So really what we're doing is trying to help in these worlds. Oops, I went backwards. Let me go backwards again here. So the problem is, we'll go through this really quickly, ERPs and WMSs, which we integrate to 250 of, are great. You all have them. The problem is they don't extend out in the field to get to right where you need to be in a mobile situation. And that's what we do. So if you look at some of the typical challenges, it's hard to digitize everything. Some of our clients have a hard time in the receiving area that do car and automotive. They can do that. They can walk through the entire process. That also gets you to wastage. So in our case, when we show you digitization in a second, you'll be able to see, if you're in the field, what product you should pick. what might be expired, what should go forward. So you look at these terms called FIFO or FIFO, first in, first out. We reduce that wastage and shrinkage. Another piece we'll talk about is cycle counting. So we're in tier 1 warehouses with companies like DHL where we can work on a Zebra scanner or any other scanner and do things very, very fast. Usually about half the time of what it normally takes to do cycle counting. Solution, I've just already kind of alluded to it, and we'll get to it a little bit deeper, but the idea is what we are and how we work. So we are very much a software platform. We're like a control tower. We integrate with all the different systems that you might have, but the sizzle to us is sort of like a Venmo or an Uber. 95% of what we do is on one of these devices. So if you're using Zebra, Honeywell, NCR scanners, or your people have an iPhone or an Android phone, automatically you have a full scanning system. And that's what we do. Pretty much everybody we work with has got high value, high impact types of supplies, inventory, logistics that they need to manage. And typically those are in fragmented locations, even though I said in the cycle 1 world, cycle counting in tier 1, we work exceptionally well there. So, no further ado, let me just jump through this real quick. And I'm going to present to you, if we're live, Josh, Ray Ridyard, who's a longtime VP from DHL and has been with us from the very get-go. Ray, welcome and hello from Brussels.
Hey guys, good morning and thank you for having me here today. Just a quick overview. So I'm Ray Ridyard. I look after our global customer transformation and consulting practice. Had the pleasure of working for DHL Service Logistics for 30 years. So I know a little bit about distributed warehouse environments. Just in terms of a little context, so we're looking at a deployment here of about 1,200 warehouse locations around the world focused on high impact, high value spares, and around 20, 30, 40,000 consigned stock locations. We're looking at a network that contains about 15 million individual parts, many of which have multiple data attributes to track. And of course, given that some of these items are used in very time-sensitive environments, inventory accuracy and availability is pretty critical, right? And you can imagine if you've got a loved one on a surgical table that needs a pacemaker, then making sure that they get that pacemaker very quickly at the right time and right place is really life critical in many cases, right? So in terms of a bit of a problem statement, for about 30 years ago, when we first started this business in DHL, most of the parts that we were handling were, had the part number on it and very rarely had a barcode. So that's already been a great development in the last 30 years. But what we've seen certainly in the last 5 to 10 years is that the number of data attributes that need to be managed have increased quite dramatically, right? And in some extreme cases, those data attributes, we might have 5 or 6 on an individual item that need to be tracked in a very accurate way, right? So if you can imagine in a classic sort of inventory scanning world with a laser-based scanner, you'd be scanning each of these 4, 5, 6 data attributes individually. And of course, the opportunity for error in that situation is quite rife, right? So if you were just scanning a part number, then no big deal. But if you have to scan 5 or 6 different values, then there's quite some complexity and data errors that we get as a consequence, right? So we needed a solution that could handle all of that complexity, could handle the complexity of more than 220 customers in our global network. And it gave me a paradigm shift in terms of productivity and scan accuracy, right? On top of that, it needed to work with a multitude of different hardware platforms. So whether that, as David quite rightly said, was an Android, an Apple, a Zebra device, or even some legacy symbol devices, we needed that to work regardless of the hardware platform that we had in the particular site. And then hence our journey with Ventory began, right? So based on our extended pilot with Ventory, we've very very accurately improved our performance on our current portfolio by at least 50%. So if you can imagine, we've halved the amount of time that we need to scan all of those parts in the network. And certainly in the future, as parts become more and more regulated, then we expect that scan productivity increase to potentially develop into the 70+% time, framework. So that's, I guess, what I had to say today. And hopefully, you'll see from David that we've got something interesting here. And, a single scan device, instead of having to scan 5 or 6 different data attributes, has made a huge difference to me as a business. And it's something that we support with the Ventory team. Thank you.
Finally, I just wanted to show you this. So this is what we're talking about. Cycle scanning in real life, multi-barcodes, multi-platforms, one device, automatically cycled to whatever your business systems are. This is using a Zebra. Before that was an iPhone, and right now it's going to be an Android phone. Thanks very much for your time, and everybody plug and play.
Much, David. Appreciate you. Next up, we're going to hear from Algo.
Works. Hi, everybody. My name is Randy Walls, and I'm here today to talk to you about Algo. Algo is a supply and demand planning platform for retailers and suppliers. Algo utilizes AI and machine learning technologies to enhance your present capabilities, as well as to create automation within your processes. Before I dive in, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and Algo as a company. My experience is actually working in large retail and suppliers. I have experience working in supply chain and inventory management in retailers such as JCPenney, Target, Meta, and at Best Buy. Within that, my first experience in inventory management was actually, as Ms. Carissa's was working on the front line. I worked in warehouses, working on the trucks, unloading inbound inventory at the warehouse, working my way up into operations planning, and moving into supply planning at the corporate offices. Once I arrived at the corporate offices, I was able to utilize those experiences, those hard-earned experiences at the warehouses, to transition to category management. And what category management is who we sell into at Walmart, Target, Best Buy. Those teams are responsible for driving hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue across those retail partnerships, as well as responsible for allocating and developing strategy for thousands of retail channels, as well as the .com experience. Within that, the opportunities that I focused on during that time frame were looking at localization opportunities, digesting first-party and third-party information to make more informed decisions about demographics within a geographic area, as well as focusing on how to target that and where and when I should be targeting those opportunities. I also worked on strategies around weather forecasts, and looking and understanding its variances that it would have on the seasonal trends. So for me, I live in Minnesota. I don't know if you guys ever look at the weather patterns or weather trends, but 2 weeks ago it was about 80 degrees there. And then last week we got 2 feet of snow. If you were planning gardening and outdoor activities during that time frame, you're not doing it. The targets are starting to set their gardening equipment at that time. Those sales, they didn't actualize, right? How can they react quicker to make more informed decisions? The reason I bring all this up is to tell you guys that Algo is driven by a team of people like me with experience within supply chain, people with experience within inventory planning, and people who have driven success within these different roles across different retail channels and partners. At Algo, we understand and we hear quite frequently from prospects and clients that their data is siloed and unstructured. They can't make the most informed decisions with that data. So we enable them to make real-time decisions with real-time insights. And the way we do that is by aggregating and sitting on top of your present infrastructure. How that looks is exactly kind of how Ventory and bops outline their technologies. Sits on top of your ERPs, your WMS, your TMS, digests third-party demographic information from US Consensus Bureau if you're in auto parts. It looks at like SEMA catalog. If you're in different varieties of industries, we can digest third-party information to make more informed decisions about where trends have been and where the trend and the industry analysts are predicting the business to go. What's important there is understanding the predictive nature of that. A lot of times, as we've heard from Dr. Matt earlier, you can only look so far in the past to have a good understanding of what you're going to do in the future. So we leverage analytics sorry, red countdown there. We leverage analytics that are provided by third-party analysts to understand where industry trends are going, right? They have technologies, they have ML capabilities, as everyone's already talked about, that are very focused within that niche of the business that they're looking at. You look at commodities trading and understanding how that looks. What is the future prices of cotton? How is that going to impact what Levi's is trying to do and how they're going to build their jeans? How is that going to impact pricing? So we layer all that information together to make more informed decisions. So what algo is, let's click this. Maybe one of these buttons? Oh, thank you back there, thank you. So just a general overview right now about algo. Again, right now we're partnered with some of the biggest consumer electronics companies there are. We're partnered with Meta, we're partnered with Microsoft, and we're also partnered with Best Buy. We have some POCs going on within the Target and Walmart environments to understand opportunities around localization and in-store pickup and the impacts that it has for omni-channel fulfillment strategy. These are just a couple of our business areas and a couple of our different business cases that we have outlined. But right now, we are offering the capabilities to highlight and understand through exception monitoring and alerts of what your capabilities are. And what that means is through a control tower, as we all know, transportation control towers help you understand where your inventory is within your supply chain. Our control tower focuses on highlighting exceptions and alerts. What that means is future-looking forecast based off of our predictive analytics and our capabilities is to help you understand where you're going to be over-inventoried and when you're going to be over-inventoried. If there's opportunity or risk, I know for me, a big part of my business was chase cancel, right? How am I going to chase that inventory? How am I going to cancel that inventory? As a retailer, I only have so much open to buy. Many of you probably heard that, right? I only have so many open to buy dollars. How am I going to adjust my inventory? And this is where that predictive nature comes into play. Layering in that information to being able to make more informed decisions about where I should be spending my dollars and where I can cut those dollars. We also offer modules within a planning environment. So we look at demand planning, right? Understanding what the future horizon looks like. Is that 12, 16, 52 weeks out? We also look at inventory planning. Just in time, demand sensing. All the key buzzwords that you hear, right? How am I going to react right now with real-time information to make real-time decisions? On top of that, we also offer replenishment planning, looking at the opportunities to get down to the store SKU combinations at the smallest grain possible to make more informed decisions with all the data that's available to you to highlight those opportunities within your business. We also focus on merchandise planning, and holistically, all of these together are going to make your supply chain more efficient, drive cost savings, as well as drive top-line revenue. Wrong one. I'll figure this out. I only got 10 seconds left, so that's it. Right now, the key highlights that I just want to outline on this is the total solution package is a intelligent inventory optimizer. It focuses on opportunities based off of different clustering and segmentation techniques, looking at machine learning capabilities to look through data more quickly and have those impacts presented in a more actionable way. And from that, it automizes your teams, right? You don't have to have so many people in chairs to look through that data. If you want to hear more about what we're doing at Microsoft or Meta, come talk to us. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we're going to hear from our last startup before we break for lunch, Fountain 9.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nikki. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fountain 9. And both my co-founder and I are ex-Googlers, studied at Carnegie Mellon, and have worked for over 10 years in the space of demand planning and machine learning across retail and pharmaceutical verticals. Now, at Fountain 9, we offer an AI-based predictive inventory planning solution. And we work with retailers and brands to help them achieve two key objectives. First is to reduce out-of-stock losses by ensuring high availability of inventory. And then the second one is to cut down excess inventory levels to free up working capital. Now, the way we go about doing that is essentially Chronoscope, which is our end-to-end demand and supply planning system. It's a system of intelligence where we bring a variety of drivers that impact demand all on one platform, including future growth drivers such as promotions and marketing, and then we link that seamlessly to our supply planning aspects, along with giving visibility into future risks of the business. Now, the way we go about doing that is through our state-of-the-art demand sensing engine, we are able to predict a variety of consumer demand patterns. Now, for example, when you introduce a new product, then how would that cannibalize some of your existing products? If you're out of stock on some products, then how would demand move to some of the substitute products? And then how does consumer demand react to changes in seasons, holidays, promotions, and a variety of other factors? And as a result of this, we are actually able to provide demand prediction accuracy with almost around like 15% more accurate demand predictions than most solutions out there. We are also able to beat Amazon's AWS forecast 8 out of 10 times when it comes to demand predictions. Now, on top of the demand sensing engine, what we also do is we have a variety of scenario planning capabilities to understand the impact of promotions, marketing, ad budgets on future sales. And our clients have seen with our promotions planning capabilities, our clients have seen 20% improvement in promotion-linked demand predictions. Now, along with, so along with promotions, we also enable simulations for price optimizations. Now, this is where our system continuously learns price elasticities for different products. And then we are able to simulate what could be the impact of change in prices towards future demand, and then also suggest what should be the right price points to offer to meet your revenue targets. And then on top of that, and so once we have the demand forecast locked in, considering all the growth drivers, then that's when we link that demand seamlessly to all the supply planning constraints, storage capacity constraints, transportation constraints, availability targets, and suggest the right replenishment quantities with dynamic adjustments towards safety stock levels, and then dynamic recommendations on what should be the right days of coverage that you should be planning for. And then over and above that, we also provide visibility into future risks of the business, where we give early warnings on future out-of-stock losses, early warnings on future overstocking levels through our control tower features. And we just don't stop here. We also provide action items on what should be the next best action to take in terms of how to rebalance your inventory across your warehouses and stores, what should be the right liquidation price points that you could offer if you have overstocked inventory, right? And so with that, so this is, we are working with over 50 fast-growing companies. These are some of the case studies based on the work that we have done for our clients. So for one of our clients, we were able to improve their inventory availability from 89% to 93%. What that translated into was a 39% reduction in their out-of-stock losses. For another one of our customers, their goal was to reduce their excess inventory levels, and we were able to bring that down by around 15% over the course of like a 6-month period. And here are some of the customer testimonials about the work that we have done in this space. Then as a company, we are backed by reputed investors such as Y Combinator, O21 Capital, and Harvard Seed Fund. And we also have several awards under our belt in innovation in machine learning and AI. And so that's us. Thank you. And so we'll be at the booth, so looking forward to any more questions that you might have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki.